Hey, audit friends and family. Don't we all like to score big? Like we all like home runs, right? Well, today he knocked the fraud right out of the park. That's what we're going to talk about today on the Friday Fraudster. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com.
All right, my friends. Now, let me just remind you all, hey, this is episode number 139 of the Friday Fraudster. And if you are trying to comment on LinkedIn, I don't know. For the last few weeks, it's been kind of giving us fits, but we have a YouTube channel. Go over to YouTube and type in That Audit Guy, and you will see the logo. Look at that. Thomas is already over there, and so is Shri. So if LinkedIn is giving you fits, head on over to our YouTube channel. We're always over there. And Carol is here too. Carol, I still owe you a book. I'm so sorry. Carol is over there too. So YouTube, people are liking YouTube. So look, today, without further delay, let's just bring on our special guest.
What's up, everyone? Did you really say knock this out of the park? Did you really open with that? Come on now.
I really did. So listen, I got a question for you, Thomas.
Oh Lord.
Kids sports, right? They aren't they expensive?
Oh yeah. I've got a son in gymnastics and a daughter in dance, and yeah, probably about 90% of my income goes towards one or the other. Yeah, it's ungodly the amount of money we spend on kids sports.
You could actually pay a mortgage for the cost of kids sports, right?
Literally. Yeah, I pay more on both of those activities than I do on my mortgage. Absolutely right.
And you do it because you love the kids.
I do it to get rid of them. I mean, yes, because I love them, and they get a lot of life lessons out of it, right? So yes, it's worth the investment, it's worth the time. Would I love for them to go pro? Yeah, absolutely. But they learn so much between now and when they stop doing the activities. It's worth the time and effort and money. Yeah.
Yeah, and you do have to put in a lot. But wait, your son has a YouTube channel with how many subscribers?
Oh, you should have asked me that before we went live, but I could tell you that in just a moment here. He's got 425 subscribers on his gymnastics YouTube channel, and he
All right,
is
so listen,
15 and a
guys.
half years old.
Yeah, listen, guys, that is twice as many as me. And so what I'm going to say right now is if you're listening to this, either live or on replay or on one of your favorite podcasting platforms, first, give us a 5-star review on whatever podcasting platform you're on. And then second, go over to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Look, I'm not above pity subscriptions. I'm not. When a
He will
15-year-old
beg, he will barter, he will steal, he'll bribe you with an I Love Audit mug. But yeah, go hit that subscribe button.
I mean, a 15-year-old has more subscribers than me. Now, Shri says it helps a lot to get them off their phones and learn how to make friends and talk. Yeah. And when kids are in sports, they are really trusting that the coaches, the parents, and any administrators actually do the right thing with their time, their money, and also the coaching of them, cultivating them to be the best that they can be, drilling sportsmanship within them and things like that. I mean, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. And my son actually, he joked with his mother, my wife, last night that he sees his coach more often than he sees his own mother, which broke her heart, but it wasn't it wasn't wrong either. But yeah, you rely on the organization, whether it's volunteers or paid people, to have all the safety gear in place, know what they're doing, properly coach. There's so many inappropriate activities that go on with coaches in various sports nowadays. You make sure that they're acting like they're supposed to. But if you show up at like a tournament or something and fees haven't been paid, now you're showing up for no reason at all. So yeah, you have to make sure everything financially is in place. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And you see clubs shut down or tournaments canceled because there's a lack of funds. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts there that have to work just perfectly.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to ask our friends listening, did you all play any sports as a kid? Did you play any sports as a kid? So I played football. I was pretty good at that. I ran track. I was pretty good at that. I tried baseball. I was terrible at it. Um, I tried basketball. Didn't really work out. I was pretty good at soccer too. So 3 out of 5 ain't bad.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I grew up. I played soccer for 7 years or so, from about age 5 to 12. I was good until everyone else's testosterone started coming in, and mine didn't. And so I was kind of behind on that one. So, but I played soccer, club soccer for a while, and then I played tennis in junior high and high school, and absolutely loved it. So, I did try baseball one time. I didn't even make it through the preseason stuff. I was out in the outfield, and my hands turned blue from the cold, and I said, "Okay, I'm done."
Wow.
Didn't even try football or basketball. I would have died. Yeah.
See, so one of my old coaches, his name is Coach Phillips. He's actually on Facebook, and he's Facebook friends with a lot of his old players.
Yep.
And last year, no, a few years ago, he compiled a lot of his team photos and he just sent them out to all of us. That was the
Nice.
best thing ever. And what's really interesting is I still remember a lot of the lessons that he taught us. He was like the best human being ever. And he still is one of the best human beings ever. So he still talks to us on Facebook every once in a while, although I hadn't seen him physically since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And look, we've got people here so IBS Photography says they were in gymnastics. Carol said, no, but there's money in band. You're right, Carol. I actually
Yep. Very true.
played percussion in the band.
Did you? So did I. That's
Yeah.
funny.
So Shree says, can I play? Of course I can play soccer. And Shree said she played volleyball and basketball. Yeah. So yeah, percussion, man. So what did you play? What was your favorite percussion instrument?
Whew. Man, it's been so long ago. I played timpani in junior high, and I enjoyed playing the timpani. That was a lot of fun to learn and to play. What about you?
So I played timpani and I really liked it. I also played the quads,
Yep.
the snare, and I think everybody had a stint on the cymbals and the triangle, right? That's kind of where they start you off. But it
So,
was
so talking about percussion, then you really need to see the group for King and Country in concert, because they literally have about 4 different drum sets, giant cymbals that they play, and a giant bass drum, and they're going around with a snare drum around their neck every once in a while. It is, from a drummer standpoint, it is a phenomenal show. So yeah, you've definitely got to check them out.
yeah. Now here's another interesting fun fact. I also, when I was in percussion, I also played the xylophone because I was the only one that had actually played the piano before, so I could really read the notes.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah, so
Very
that
cool.
was interesting. My favorite though was the quads and the snare.
I loved watching the quads. I wanted to play them, but I was in junior high and then freshman year of high school, and then I got out of band. So I wish I would have stuck around and try to have the opportunity to play the quads, because that definitely looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're just joining us today, we are just
We're talking
shooting
about
the
band.
breeze. we are just shooting the breeze right now, talking about sports, specifically kids sports, and the responsibility that you have as parents, coaches, and administrators to make sure that that everything is on the up and up, that the children are safe, and that the finances are actually safe too, so that you don't have to necessarily be on the street corner selling Girl Scout cookies in order to support your local football team. Although that happens right from time to time. Um, but nowadays, we have these entry fees associated with sports, and some of these children's little league games are collecting some serious cash. It
Yeah.
costs a lot of money to play sports nowadays, right?
Yeah, so from the gymnastics standpoint, since my son's in gymnastics, you have the fees you pay to whatever the gym they're at, and that covers basically their practice during the week. But then you also have to pay dues to cover the competition fees, the uniform fees, coaches' travel costs, all of that sort of thing as well. So, and then when we go to the competition, we have to pay tickets to be able to get into the competition, and then parking fees and some of that. So yeah, they're always finding ways to nickel and dime you, right? But yeah, there's a lot of money that's flowing through those organizations quite often. I was actually on a booster club for one of the local gymnastics places once, and it was a lot to keep up with and manage.
All right. And since we're talking about knocking it out of the park, so I was looking at this one baseball league, their spring 2024 registration cost. I was looking at it now. $400 for what they call minor registration, $400 for what they call junior registration, and for senior registration, $450 for the spring.
Yeah, yeah. That honestly, that sounds a little cheap compared to what I'm paying right now. But yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah. So you're talking about $400, and how many athletes are in some of those leagues? You're talking a large number of athletes, I'm sure.
Now, it's interesting because they say that the registration includes league registration and insurance, one local tournament, just one, and they have multiple, a team hat, and then two custom team jerseys, one home and one away.
That's pretty impressive, actually. That's a really good deal.
It is a really good deal, and it makes me wonder if the deal could have been a little sweeter because recently the treasurer of this organization was accused of embezzling over $700,000 from this organization over the course of about 7 years. So about $100,000 a year, right?
That's a pretty good chunk of change. I mean, I couldn't imagine that much money walking out the door and nobody noticing it. That's absurd to me.
That's what I was thinking too. So Stephanie's joined us on YouTube too. I guess she was having problems on LinkedIn because she usually comments and I'm not seeing anything. So Stephanie said, okay, trying this YouTube thing out. Yeah. So $700,000. Let's talk about it. This is in Sherwood, Oregon. The gentleman served as the treasurer of the Junior Baseball League since 2017. He was taken into custody by Sherwood Police Department in February, and now he's in the county jail. On
When you
March
say
19th,
February, that was February, as in like a month ago. February. This is a
yes,
very recent, very recent thing to happen.
a month ago, February. Now, on March 19th, a grand jury indicted him on 7 counts of first-degree aggravated theft and 3 counts of first-degree theft. But here's what happened. So, for the entire association, there was a newly appointed president, and that president noticed some discrepancies in their bank account, and then he hired an outside financial firm to conduct an audit. Based on the information from that audit, he then provided that information to a police detective. And so the police detective used the audit to start an investigation. And the detective said that he discovered numerous suspicious transactions dating all the way back to 2017.
So I applaud this new president, right? He comes in, he takes a look around. I say he, I think it said it was he, comes in and looks and says, okay, something doesn't look right here. And he didn't just, well, I'll kind of look around and see what's going on. He attacked it. He went right at it. And I applaud anyone who even sees a little bit of smoke where and immediately investigates if there's a fire, right? He could have very easily said, well, we're drawing a line in the sand and moving forward and not going to worry about it. But instead, he did the right thing, hired professionals to really take a look and go after this. So I applaud that. That took a lot of energy and effort to do that.
Absolutely. That's always going to take a lot of effort and energy. And Leslie Hambrick said two of the Optimist teams that her daughter played on had people embezzle money.
That's so sad. The board that I was on for a local gymnastics club here a couple of years ago, we had three of us on the board, but we still had internal controls in place to help prevent any type of embezzlement or fraud from happening. We were almost paranoid about it to make sure everything was above board and done properly. So it's sad when you hear that, because it's you're stealing money from the families and from the kids.
Yeah, and I think we talk about this a lot, but I think what you really look at is when it comes to organizations like that, as well as nonprofits, there's a high level of trust. So they trust people to do the job that they are probably not being paid to do in some instances, but then in other instances, probably they are being paid. But there's a high level of trust. And as Kelly Paxton always says, trust is not a control.
Yeah.
And when you trust these people, they end up doing things that, well, undermine the credibility of the organization. And so let's talk about what he did, or what they found. We can talk about what they found, and then that'll help us back into possibly how he did it. So they're saying, the detective said that he saw transactions where money was transferred into his personal account, a business account, and where money was spent directly at a variety of casinos throughout Oregon and Washington.
Where do you even start with that, right? So how in the world could it be possible for him to spend it directly at casinos? Like, that's one of the first things that happened with us when we had to set up a new bank account. And when we did so, the bank actually asked us, do you want to put any restrictions on this? So why there weren't any restrictions on what you could spend it on is sad. I did actually look it up, and I saw where he had lost about $2,800 in an online casino over the last 12 or 24 months or so. So he apparently wasn't that good at the casino, which is why he was embezzling this money.
Yeah. So my guess is either they had given him a corporate credit card, which like seems pretty reasonable because you might need to go out and purchase snacks or something like that, or he had an old school traditional checkbook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know on the gymnastics side, you talk about the fees included one local tournament for baseball, right? In gymnastics, we have about 7 or 8 different competitions in the year. And yeah, you're going online and you're having to pay the registration fee for your team. You have one person doing it, so that way your entire team is registered. So yeah, you have to have a credit card or a debit card or some way to pay online. You can mail in a check, but I mean, it's not like they're going to accept cash. Not that you would want to do this in cash either, but so yeah, that makes sense for them to do it. But and I'm willing to bet, since he was treasurer, he's probably the one that opened the bank account too.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and you know what? I think I forgot to mention that he was the treasurer. So I'm glad you said that, because as I'm thinking back, I meant to say it, but I don't think I did.
No.
So with being the treasurer, you're right. He probably is the one that opened the bank account. He probably was the only signer on the account, or maybe the president or CFO, but they probably did not go into the account at all. Now, they said that they had about 400 people registered with that association, which means that for this one spring event, 400 people at an average of $400, that's $160,000 for just one term, one spring, one tournament. So they at least brought in 160 a year, but I'm guessing it's probably more, like maybe in the 300 to $500,000 range with multiple tournaments.
Yeah. And I couldn't imagine the stress of having to manage the money by yourself for an organization that has 400 different players. That alone would be so stressful that I would almost be begging for people to help me to help manage the money, and do just to make sure all of the expenses are properly paid. You get the uniforms and all of that to make sure each organization is properly paid and accounted for. So the fact that this person didn't do that and had the skill to embezzle it as well is that's something else.
Yeah. Now, Stephanie says likely he was taking cash advances from the card, and that's kind of what I assume, maybe from an ATM located in the casino, which is how they were able to pinpoint that. But then she also says you can also wire to a casino and send an ACH. Now, that I did not know.
I didn't know that either. Interesting. But even there,
Wow.
I would I would like to assume that casinos are even a little like just conscious of what type of account is the money coming from. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe not. But do we know if this was like a booster club or a nonprofit type of organization, or is it a for-profit organization that he was paying out and being responsible for?
I am not sure. It is the Sherwood Junior Baseball League. And, that's a good question. Now that I am on their website, let's see. Well, they don't mention on their website how they are structured. You know how most, oh, wait, here we go. About us. I'm wrong. Their mission is to foster a love for baseball. Okay, I get that. Oh, wow. So when you look at their organizational structure, I think they probably bring in quite a bit of money. They have a president, a secretary, a treasurer, a new treasurer, a registrar, an equipment manager, a co-apparel coordinator, field and scheduling coordinators, a senior coordinator, a junior coordinator, a minors coordinator, a futures coordinator. Those are the different, like leagues levels, a rookies
Uh,
coordinator, a T-ball coordinator, and then a fall ball coordinator. Um, I,
and only one treasurer that handles money.
yeah. And then, well, they do say though that they're always looking for additional volunteers, both within our board and among committees for tournaments, concessions, and umpires. So maybe these aren't paid roles,
Interesting.
but they do have board meeting minutes that are public on the,
Mhm.
well, now they are public on the internet. Um, so they do have board meetings.
Yeah, and I've seen numerous committees. I'm just curious because yeah, one thing that we were paranoid about, to be honest, with that booster club I was on, was making sure every time we spent money or every decision we made abided by the laws and the regulations for a nonprofit booster club. Because if you're not careful with how the funds are utilized and some of the fundraising activities and such, you can lose that nonprofit status that quick. So that's why I was curious about that. But yeah, it's not. It doesn't say it's not a nonprofit, but it doesn't say it is either. So it's kind of hard to tell. This is where we need Christine on. Christine can normally do that kind of research like 2 seconds. Tell us.
Absolutely. And for those of you who miss Christine, she will be back. I think next week is what I think we talked about. Heck, I barely know what today is, so it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for me to actually keep up. Um, Now the I'm looking for here we go. The new president went on record to say, and this is a good thing, he said, "We are deeply troubled by the actions of the individual involved in this unfortunate incident. However, since discovering the issue, our organization has taken decisive steps to address the situation." Now, this was a spokesperson for the organization. He says, "We have implemented rigorous internal financial controls and ensured transparency by openly holding board meetings and reaffirmed our unwavering commitment to prioritizing the kids first in everything we are doing." And if you look on their website, you can see the board meeting minutes. And the fact that he actually used the words, though, rigorous internal financial controls. Now, I'm sure somebody gave them the right buzzwords to use, but I don't think that that's an empty statement.
I don't think that's an empty statement. I believe him, and I believe that they're trying to do the right thing. But saying something like, the board meetings will be, publicly held, and we're going to post the meeting minutes. That's not an internal control, right? That is, it doesn't matter what you say or do in those meetings. That's not going to prevent something like this from happening. So, but at least they're showing the public hey, you can be involved and you can at least come in. A lot of times these board meetings, you'll give an opportunity for the public to say something, almost like a town hall type of a situation. So I do applaud them for doing that part as well, from a transparency standpoint, because otherwise it feels like they're just behind the curtain saying, "Oh yeah, we got it fixed," and you don't know. So at least they're doing something, but hopefully it's a lot more than just that.
Yeah, and I will say, in looking at the meeting minutes, there's certain things they obviously don't talk about. So the most recent one from February, they talk about the wait list closing, and they have scholarships. So they said they have approved 8 scholarships totaling less than $1,650. Then they also said that rates are going to stay consistent with last year, and they have 3 tiers of rates: $650, $550, and $450. So like I was saying, that 160 was just for that one round. $160,000, sorry, that we estimated was just for that one time period, that one tournament. So I imagine this is probably a $500,000 operation, if not more.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I was actually looking for at one of the minutes back in 2020, and you actually see the, I believe you say accused person here, his name popping up a couple of times, and it's not just on the financial side, but he's also. They were looking at. It looks like a large green Conex box between two locations. This guy has a connection to be able to help work with that. So it's not like he was just handling money and had nothing else to do with it. He was involved in the organization, which a lot of times, like Kelly says, trust is not a control, but people wear multiple hats and they do a lot of different things. And so the more involved they are, the more you tend to trust them. So I can understand that aspect. But yeah, the meeting minutes definitely are very vague on the financial side as far as at least those details go.
Yeah, and now Stephanie is saying many of the casinos in Washington and Oregon are Indian casinos, unsure of their due diligence requirements since they are tribal. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
there are
makes sense.
some special rules, but yeah, I'd imagine holistically they still have to abide by some of the same rules, but yeah, other things are just very different. So if you're
Yeah.
just joining us today, we're talking about a baseball league for children where there was a treasurer who apparently had too much authority and power. He allegedly embezzled over $700,000 over a 7-year period, so about $100,000 a year. And he transferred money to his own personal account, to a business account, and he also spent money at a casino. Now, the transfers to his personal account and the business account, that's very interesting too, because you can see the lack of controls. Because if you're going to set up a new payee with your bank, you really want a segregation of duties for that, right? You want somebody
Mhm.
to vet it to make sure it's a real vendor, and then you want somebody else to approve it, and you want people to be looking at that. And apparently, according to some other things I saw from the detective, he didn't try to conceal it. Like, it was his account with his name on it. So
Yeah.
that's a little blatant there.
Well, and what gets me, so the report says it started back in 2017, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 2019, there was actually some meeting minutes stating that he was uh, elected for this treasury position. He was responsible for all of the financials, for all of the handling of the money. But there was another person who was going to be shadowing him as part of a succession plan once he had
Mhm.
held that position for a certain amount of time. If this embezzlement started 2 years prior to this, what happened to that person back in 2019?
Ah, so it sounds like he may have said something to get rid of that person because he knew that what he was doing would have been uncovered.
Could have been. Could have been. It says the treasurer accounts for all funds, develops budgets, provides regular financial reporting, and files all taxes and forms. If he's developing the budget and handling the funds, because that's one thing I noticed in most of these meeting minutes, he was reporting positively that they were under budget on expenses. So he was able to develop a budget, report that their budget looked good, and yet still embezzle an average of $100,000 a year. So as long as the financials looked good and they were on budget, nobody questioned anything.
Yeah, so this was the ultimate scheme then because you could pad the budget. Yeah, like you're saying, you pad the
Yep.
budget, and then each year when you give the update, you're under budget, and so nobody's going to question, say if the budget was 700,000 and you only spent 600,000, nobody's going to question a $100,000 savings.
Right.
Wow.
Exactly. So
Now
what kind of
that
controls would you put into place, Robert?
Oh wow. So
I like
first,
to be able to ask you a question instead of you asking me.
yeah, I know, right? So first with the bank account, I would have definitely had multiple, at least two signers on the account with access to log into it, right? Then for setting up new vendors, definitely separate that. One person can enter it into the system, but another person has to approve the vendor, right? Small organization, but you at least have two people that could actually do that. Um, then for payments that go out, at least do some sort of periodic analysis. This is who we typically pay.
Mhm.
Because surely he would, well, maybe he was, but I highly doubted if he was paying himself every month or even every quarter. It was probably just when he felt like it and when he needed money, especially if there's a gambling problem, right? So looking at payments periodically, making sure that appropriate vendors are set up, and then your standard bank reconciliations, but also just get a vendor list. Get a
Yeah.
vendor list every year and just pick a few vendors and see if they are legitimate because there's absolutely no way that they had thousands of vendors. They may have had 50 to 100.
Well, even if they had thousands, if you do a simple, they had 15 board members according to this. Do a quick search of the 15 board members, and then if there's any other kind of higher ranking people that might be making decisions and such, include them on that list and do a name search on that vendor list, right? But
There you go.
yeah, I agree. I think the most basic one is just a bank reconciliation, but having someone that is not the treasurer doing the bank reconciliation and reviewing it. And I
Yeah.
think just having an independent person looking at it might have even just prevented him from having that temptation of doing it if you know someone is looking at that bank account.
Well, and here's a big one too. With and right now I'm just going under the assumption that there was a credit card. If there was a credit card, turn off the capability to get cash advances from the credit card.
Yep.
I mean, that's an easy one. So if you remove the capability to get cash advances from the credit card, then that helps save a lot of problems. And then have someone look at the credit card statements. I
Yep.
mean, why would you have purchases from the credit card in the casino?
Yeah.
My man Garen Bellini has joined us. Listen, people, you guys see me mobile, traveling from place to place. Sometimes it's hard to pack up and go somewhere and broadcast live on a podcast. Well, I do it with the help of my man, Garen Bellini. Microstudio.ca, you can get your mobile podcasting kit from my man, Garen Bellini. Thanks for joining, Garen. Now, Thomas, for auditors, I think there's some other lessons that we can take away from this. For example, your work papers, they need to be clean and crisp because you never know when they may need to be turned over to law enforcement. And I find that a lot of us do pretty bad with our work papers.
We get lazy. We get inconsistent, right? Especially if we feel like it's going to be for a nonprofit organization or something that's just used internally. External auditors aren't going to look at it. I won't lie. There's quite often that I will do the work, but the documentation side on the work paper, I might get lazy with from time to time. So yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah. And so that reminds me, though, if you really want to know how to do your work papers, I know someone who's written a great book on work papers. It's called Creating Wonderful Work Papers. That somebody would be me. You can go to wonderfulworkpapers.com and pick up your copy of that book because seriously, at any point in time, our work papers could be used by law enforcement. And having actually had to turn over some work papers to law enforcement on more than one occasion, I can tell you the better you make it for them, the easier it is for you in the long run. In other words, they don't have to question you because it's just when you're sitting across the aisle from a man wearing a gun, that just
That just means you're in Texas.
right. You know what's funny too? Even if you didn't do anything, right? You know, you're the auditor. You're the one handing over the information. It still
Yep.
just doesn't feel good sometimes. Yeah. And Shafundu says, sure, great controls, automated credit card controls, and analytics on the MCC codes. Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You
Well,
can
and talking about the work papers, I'll give a plug for your book as well because I've seen your work papers and turned them over to external auditors, and they don't ever question your work papers. They question mine, they question others, but they didn't question your work papers. So I probably need to get a copy of that book and use it myself. But yeah, that's it's definitely worth a read and actually implementing and using for your audit work papers.
Yeah, I'm a stickler about just documenting stuff because I don't have time for you to ask me questions later, especially now that I'm really old. My memory is
I was going to say, yeah, you asked me a question about an audit I did a month ago. I'm going to have to really think about it because, yeah, the brain is definitely slowing down. Believe it or not, speaking of being old and such, my birthday is on this coming Monday, April 1st. So I'm a lovely April Fool's kid. I know it doesn't fit my personality at all, but yeah, I'm feeling every year I get older, I'm physically feeling it.
so on Monday, you mean I can like send you a text message saying happy birthday, your gift is in the mail, and then send another text message later and say April Fools?
Well, you can say it's in the mail and say it's a coffee mug, and everybody will know I'm not going to get it. So it's all good.
What's funny
I
is
say that I actually do have one of those mugs. I think it's downstairs right now.
what's real funny is only a few people are gonna get that, but for those who do get it, they are gonna laugh hysterically. It it takes me a little while to ship out the prizes, let's just say that. But I'm a one guy operation over here, so it gets kind of hard sometimes. Um, oh. So listen, those little league, uh, um, those little league, what am I trying to say? Sports and band camps and stuff that your children are in,
Yep.
make sure that they are actually handling the money the way that they should. I mean, even if you are just a parent, I still think that that means you should have a right to know how much are they collecting and where it's being spent. So to me, that's another control as a parent or a friend
Yep.
of these leagues. Ask. And if you get pushback for seeing the financial statements, then something might be wrong. Now, granted, just because you own stock in Apple doesn't mean that they will give you all of the documentation. Now, because Apple's publicly traded, you can pull that off the internet. Before a private company, they don't have to give you the financial statements. But I would imagine that these places may not give you too much heartburn or headache if you ask about the finances.
But, I know when I was on that booster club, if someone came in kind of rude and accusatory, which thankfully they never did, but if they came in that way, we kind of gave them attitude back just because they were starting off with attitude. But if they came in just generally just inquisitive, hey, how are these funds spent? Especially if they were like new to the sport, they had a young kid first starting off on a team or whatever. Then we'd say, yeah, this is. So we would actually go through a new team member orientation at the beginning. Say, okay, these are the expenses. This is the breakdown. This is where the money goes. This is why you have this extra fee compared to your normal fee you're paying to the gym. And we would go through that from a transparency standpoint. We also wanted to do that so that way somebody else would volunteer to be on the booster club later on. We didn't have to keep doing it, right? But yeah, we welcomed those kind of questions because the more they know, the better informed and educated they are. We're all for it. So yeah, if you get pushback whenever someone questions, if you ask questions like that, that's a red flag immediately.
Yeah. So now, if you're just joining us, $700,000 missing from a baseball league's account, and the funds were spent on casinos. They were transferred to a personal account. They were transferred to a business account
Yeah.
from one individual who apparently had a lot of control. He was the treasurer, and there doesn't appear to be any checks and balances. Now, a new president came in for the organization, decided to have an independent firm come in and do an audit because he was suspicious of a few things. The audit disclosed some discrepancies. They then turned that auditor's or that audit company's work papers over to a police detective who continued the investigation. And this individual was indicted in March of this year. Well, I guess this month, was indicted a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So that's what we were talking about today. So listen, Thomas, we've talked about baseball, we've talked about fraud, we've talked about work papers. Now, with those work papers, you kind of need to have a good audit management system to put them in so that you can do your reporting and do your record keeping and things like that. You know of any good audit management systems?
Only the best. The newest one that's on the market right now, it's called IA Stream. You can find out more on iastream.net. I'll even try to put it in the comments here in a moment on over on YouTube. I tried to design and build it where an internal audit department doesn't have to go outside of the software to do much of anything. You can do your reporting. You can look at a Gantt chart to see your audit schedule. You can do review notes in there. You can request documents. You receive documents within there. Everything is all encompassing right there for a low annual cost. No nickel and diming, no, hey, here's a new feature, so here's a new feed, nothing like that, and unlimited users. Designed for small departments as well as the largest in the world.
And I've heard that it's so easy, your CFO will use it. That's what I've heard. Now, listen, you guys, do me a favor. If you decide to contact Thomas because you've heard it here, tell him that I sent you. He might buy me a cup of coffee. The other thing is, I've actually seen the system, you guys. It is going to change the game. Thomas, do you want to disclose the cost or no?
Do I want to disclose the cost? Absolutely, I do, because that's one of the selling features, right? So right now, opening cost, it's $7,500 a year for the annual fee. There's a $750 implementation fee, and that is your entire out-of-pocket period. So annual fee is $7,500. There's no user license fees. There's no feature fees. There's no other fees or add-ons. It's just a flat $7,500 annual fee. So I tried, like I said, I tried to make it fit any budget that's out there.
And mind you, people, that is for unlimited users. So unlimited auditors, unlimited, audit clients, unlimited audit committee members. This is unlimited. I remember the last system I implemented, we actually paid $25,000 for the implementation, and my annual fee was something like $15,000 per year for 5 users. So just put that into perspective for everyone. A lot of small audit departments feel like they can't afford an audit management system. However, an audit management system can streamline some of your processes that you're spending an exorbitant amount of time on. So it may well be worth the investment if the price point is right. So
if you go to iastream.net/that audit guy, and you can fill out a very easy information form, and I can get in touch with you there. You can also click or just go straight to iastream.net, be able to see some screenshots of the dashboard and find out more information there. But yes, definitely let me know that you heard about it here, so that way I can get Robert to keep talking about it.
We've had a lot of shout outs today. My man Garen was like, hey, that shout out though for the micro studio. I'm telling you, man, micro studio is the way to go. Micro studio is the way to go. So on this Good Friday, I just want to thank everyone for listening in. And you know where to find us every Friday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you know of any good stories, send them to us. We'd be happy to cover them. If you want to come on as a special guest host, let me know. We'd be happy to have you on too, because the more the merrier. This is our little audit and fraud community, and we aim to make it the best that it can be. Thomas, any parting words, my friend?
Well, I just want to wish everyone a very happy Easter weekend. For Christians, this is probably the most important weekend of the entire year, the event that we celebrate. So I hope everybody has a great weekend, remembering the reason for the season, to steal something from Christmas there, but also enjoy a whole lot of great candy and great cooking this weekend as well. But no, I appreciate you having me on again as always, Robert.
Absolutely. And if you have any peeps, just send them my way. I love them. Love them, love them, love them.
Uh,
All right.
Use a peep and make a s'more out of it. That's delicious too.
Ooh, I didn't think about that. Okay, now you got me thinking. All right, people. Thank you for joining us. We will see you all next week.